Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Hey, yeah, boy.
Touch this. This gentleman here, I'm not quite sure what paper he's supposedly serving. You might want to go and talk to him. I can't advise you on the law. I can't give you any legal advice. I can't tell you the force or effect of this, but I can tell you that I've accepted it on behalf of the sheriff's office. Awesome. Thank you. All right, have a good one.
What's up? I'm so happy y'all are here with me. You know what it is. It's power inherent in the people. First things what we're going to be talking about in relation to understanding your rights as far as what you have and what you're eligible to do. It all comes down to the Constitution and what they taught you and what they didn't teach you. What they indoctrinated you with and what you just took and ran with. And you didn't do no investigation. Well, there comes a point where that's why you're here. You're doing your investigation. You want to stand on your rights. You want to empower yourself and the further generations on, or the ones below you that didn't know. Either way, we're going to get into it. So the first things first is the notice of liability. Now I'm going to read this through with y'all because I want you to really understand, get an understanding of everything that I have gotten, or I don't want to rush through it to where you don't understand. So let's go through it. This is a notice of liability under common law, and you want to share this with the police department, specifically the city police and the sheriff's office. Okay, you don't have to necessarily share it with the city itself, but you can if you want to. It's up to you. You can put anybody on notice. You can serve someone and put them on notice of their liability right when they pull you over if you wish to. Reserve all rights, hand this over to them, and boom. Hopefully, if they're going to abide by the oath that they took, they should read this and really understand what's going down. So it says at the top, comes now the affiant, one of the people, as seen in all of the several states' declaration of rights and bills of rights, as in Article 1, Section 1 in the Indiana Constitution. Surrey jurists in this court of record do make the following claims. Okay, so you're stating a claim, okay? And you can substitute it for Indiana, any of them that has these type of rights within them, but you can use this one just as it is, and I'll provide the link for you guys. But you can have this one just as it is, and you're perfectly fine as long as you have a notary. Okay. So within Indiana's though, these are just examples for them to understand. It doesn't matter if it's in their state or not. Okay. This is in the Article 1 Bill of Rights, Section 1. We declare that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that all power is inherent in the people, and that all free governments are, and of right ought to be, founded on their authority. Do you hear that?
Yes, sir.
Who? Let's repeat. We'll go back. We declare that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator. You have nothing above you.
100.
There is nothing above you. That's number one. That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights that cannot be messed with. So when you violate me, you violating the Creator. It don't matter how small or how big you think it is of a violation. That's not for you to determine. That's for me to determine. I felt as though you violated my rights, and to me, you should have known better with everything being presented, knowing the facts that you did not stop me, you did not pull me over, you pulled over a whole nother vehicle, and because you saw I had no plates, you decided you wanted to stop me.
Hold up.
Freely walking. Okay, we won't talk about me no more, we'll get back to it. Okay. Endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and all that you see fit in that, as long as you are not hurting another person. Anything that you see fit that falls within life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that's not for them to determine. Your happiness is of your own. Now, if your happiness, somebody said, oh, well, what if your happiness is filled with hurting someone? That's not allowed, bro. Come on, man. Let's not play stupid here. Don't be a smart ass, bro. That all power is inherent in the people. All power inherent in the people. And that all free governments are, all the governments below, and of right ought to be, founded on their authority. Okay? Our authority. Okay? Get it right, man. This is for real, dude. You got to start understanding this, okay?
Hey, yeah, boy.
Boss.
And instituted for their peace, my peace. If I'm already at peace, I don't need you to come try and regulate me to give me peace. I'm already at peace. I haven't requested for you. Safety and well-being. If you don't need safety and you don't need well-being, then you're not supposed to interfere with my life. No regulations. That don't apply to me. I'm not a part of your corporate fiction. I have no contractual agreements. Do you get what I'm saying? Understand this. For the advancement of these ends, the people have, the people at all times, an indefeasible right to alter and reform their government. So hello, if you don't like what these dudes doing in your city, start at the small level in the city and start talking.
100.
You gotta talk to the mayor. You gotta talk to the community. You gotta say, look, yo, these Bill of Rights are in place. These are not where we need to be seeking revenue for the police department. You see what I'm saying? Like, how they drive their vehicle. I mean, as long as they're not speeding, harming anybody, you know, staying in safety, you know, being cautious. As long as, you know, you good to go. Beyond that, everything else is out of line. You cross the line, homeboy.
100.
Maryland, Article 6. That all persons invested with the legislative or executive powers of the government are the trustees of the public. They trustees, they work for us. Again, trustees of the public, they work for us. And as such, accountable for their conduct. They can be accountable for their conduct. They will be accountable for their conduct. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You ain't gonna work around violating rights. And you will be held accountable for your conduct. You have to stand with authority, knowing that you are a creation of the Creator. Nobody has higher authority than you. Period. Quit allowing them to harass you because they have used their corporate policies, statutes. These are all under color of law. They are not true law. The color of. What do you think Title 18, Section 242 is about, y'all? Deprivation of rights under color of law. That's a federal violation, dude.
Yes, sir. 100.
Hello? They're gonna start learning real quick once you start knowing, and once the majority of us start knowing.
Hey, yeah, boy.
Wherefore, we're down here. Wherefore, okay, whenever the ends of the government are perverted and the public liberty manifestly endangered, and all other means of redress are ineffectual, the people may and of right ought to reform the old and establish a new government. Do you hear that? When they are acting out of line, the people have all the power to push whoever they want to see as a leader. I don't necessarily dictate the mayor as a leader, but let's say, you know, like you're pushing your city, if it's a small city like Hood River, hey man, stop harassing this people. We need to reform our city government here. The policies in which your police department has on the people of the public. This is not cool. It's now costing our city hundreds of thousands of dollars because y'all guys just want to harass people and put people in handcuffs and violate their rights and make them speak when they don't want to speak. You see what I'm saying? That is not okay. I don't care what anybody thinks. It's not okay. It doesn't matter what you even think because it's already dictated in the Constitution long ago. So, and anything under that is I have case law, which we'll go over at a later point, about how if they make up something that violates your rights, you can act on it with impunity. You don't have to listen to them, y'all. You may have to suffer the consequences of them not knowing, but by you knowing and not just walking away from the situation as though you didn't know, they're going to learn that they cannot keep doing it over and over. And the more of the public that does this and acts and stands upon their true creative capacity, because that's what they are a creation of the creator. It's it doesn't matter what you dictate as your creator, you're still a creation. Like our government back then recognized that. Doesn't matter what God you worship, that's irrelevant. Hello.
Hey, yeah, boy.
So it says the doctrine of non-resistance against arbitrary power and oppression is absurd, slavish, and destructive of the good and happiness of mankind. Okay, this is what you're gonna submit, okay, to the police department, sheriff's department. Yeah, you don't have to necessarily share it with the county, like as far as public works or anything like that. You can do whatever you want though.
Yes, sir. 100.
Hey.
Washington Declaration of Rights, Section 1, political power. All political power is inherent in the people. Did you hear that? All political power is inherent in the people. We dictate, not the corporation, bro.
Hold up.
And governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. Section 3 of personal rights. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Section 7. Invasion of private affairs or home prohibited. No person shall be disturbed in his private affairs or in his home invaded without authority of law. That means in your car. That is a household good. In your car, bro. It's been dictated. That's why it's on my license plate. If you watch Brian's video and you've seen it says the UCC 9-109, bro, your car is a household good. And when you go and register it with the state, get the title and all that good stuff, bro, you are then giving them somewhat of authority over your vehicle. You're signing a contractual agreement. And the whole contractual agreement is based on the aspects of doing commerce if you want to use the roads in a profitable manner. And the reason that they did this in the first place is because they didn't want the roads flooded with a whole bunch of commercial people. That was the whole point. They're like, man, we're going to have to tax you guys because now y'all are flooding up our roads. And some of the big trucks was going slow and the roads wasn't big enough. People, you know what I'm saying? They needed to regulate them because they were carrying goods and all kinds of stuff. Stuff was getting carried that shouldn't have been carried. Like, you got to understand why it was put in place in the first place. Maybe we'll go through that together. But I'm more about the constitutional right aspect, you know?
Okay, then.
I declare and adamantly affirm the following. You may wish to provide care. In the event this is a stop or arrest, any stop is an arrest. Okay? I don't care what they say. You've been detained. It's an arrest. Okay? If I've been taken against my will, that's an arrest. It's not a detainment. A detainment is, hey, you have to stay here. You put me in handcuffs and read me my Miranda rights, it's an arrest. Okay? It's arrest just touching me. Just a detainment is an arrest against my will when I've done nothing wrong. That's an arrest, man. Look it up, okay? Maybe we'll look it up. Okay, so it says you now have 2 minutes to make your decision. I will not be detained willingly. Okay, this is already after you've gotten it signed by when you've already had a notary. Yeah, when you've already had a notary sign this. Okay, so it says after 2 minutes time period expires, your insistence or demand of my detention and or any other requirement of me is me under duress and protest to and of trespass of my rights. Okay, a trespass upon my rights by you or by you and cohort will bind to incurring penalty upon one and all individually personally, professionally, and is equally and additionally binding upon a department, division, agency, association, or organization bearing responsibility for the individuals or personnel's duty, conduct, and or actions. The first trespass, when they come up and touch your car, put their little fingerprint on there so if anything happens, that's the first trespass. And that's a minimum fee and charge of $100,000.
Okay then.
And charge of treason. The second trespass is a minimum fee of $200,000 and a charge of treason. Per all additional trespass, minimum fee and charge is of a $1 million and charge of treason. Constitutionally, I am a free man by nature, a creation of God. That is nature. Do you understand that? God is nature. God is all. God is everything. You are a part of God. What don't you understand about that? Get it clear in your head, man. I am not property to be administered. I am not part of your administration. You can't tag me and tell me what to do and think you have power over me. I am not in contract with the state or any agency, department, or division within or of the state. No entity nor man has title over me or ownership of a free man. Administrating a free man is repugnant to his freedom, liberty, happiness, privacy, security, and life. I have not been declared incompetent. You have been noticed by one of the people. Please take further notice. I retain all rights to remedy and surrender none. May God bless you and your day. Amen. This is a verification under USC 1741. Representation true and correct. All of my knowledge. You sign it. You see here I made one for Clark County, and I had it notarized. Okay. Now, the next part that we're going to go into, because I don't want to make this video too short, that's the notice of liability. What you guys are going to be doing is you are going to be
Smoke weed every day.
Okay then.
You are going to be filing that directly with, again, the sheriff's department and the police department and where you live or where you travel through. And the reason for that is because you got to put them on notice, man. They got to be put on notice. If you're not making them putting them on notice of your rights, then they're going to violate your rights. But you also have to rescind any kind of contractual agreements that you have with the state, right? So you're going to have to call up the DMV. You might have to call up some different departments to figure out, hey, I would like to rescind my driver's license. I don't want to have a driver's license with your state no more. You can give them whatever reason. You can say you're moving out of the country. Whatever the case is, you need to revoke your driver's license and be done with it, okay? Tags as well, license plate as well, okay? Get out of the system all the way, okay? Now, this is the start of a motion that I file with the courts if they do decide to give me tickets. As you'll see here, recently I've been working on one in Marion County, okay? This is a notice and demand for abatement. You see I've titled the state of Oregon and the city of or Salem as well, okay? Alright, so this is a petitioner's memorandum of the law in support of the notice to abate, and I'll have a copy for this, but we got to read through it. And you know, if I don't read through it, you just go in the text. Maybe if you read through it yourself, you're good, you're golden. I like to type it out, and that's what made me really understand this text, okay? Is typing it out, but we'll read it. So this memorandum will be construed to comply with provisions necessary to establish presumed facts pursuant to the Rule 301 Federal Rules of Evidence and attending state rules. Should interested parties fail to rebut, again, if they fail in any manner to rebut any given allegation of fact or matter of law addressed herein within what I have given them with specificity, the position will be construed as adequate to meet requirements of judicial notice, thus preserving fundamental law. Matters addressed herein, if not rebutted, will be construed to have general application. This memorandum addresses the issue of state statutes, regulations, and licensing of a constitutional right to free travel upon the public roads of the land known as Oregon. 1. The overview of American people's right to travel. If ever a judge understood the American people's right to use the public roads, it was Justice Tolman of the Supreme Court of the state of Washington. Justice Tolman states, quote, complete freedom of the highways is so old and well established a blessing that we have forgotten the days of the robber barons and toll roads, and yet under an act like this, arbitrarily administered, the highways may be completely monopolized if, through lack of interest, which is what we have in America, the people submit, which is what they've done, then they may look to see the most sacred of their liberties taken from them one by more or less rapid encroachment. Unquote. Robertson versus Department of Public Works, 180, Washington, 133rd, 142nd, 7th. The rights of Justice Tolman ring most prophetically in the ears of American citizens throughout the country today, as the use of the public roads has been monopolized by the very entity which has empowered to stand guard over our freedoms, that of state government. 2. The rights. The most sacred of liberties which Justice Tolman spoke of was personal liberty, which has been placed in conflict by the plaintiff. The definition of personal liberty is, quote, personal liberty, or the right to enjoyment of life. Liberty is one of the fundamental or natural rights which has been protected by its inclusion as guaranteed in the various constitutions, which is not derived from, or even dependent on the U.S. Constitution, which may not be submitted to a vote. You can't vote on it. You can't change it. And our rights ain't even derived from the Constitution. You hear what these people saying? This is a quote, man.
Hey, yeah, boy.
And may not depend on the outcome of an election. So, let me finish. It is one of the most sacred and valuable rights, as sacred as the right to private property, and is regarded as inalienable. 16 CJS Constitutional Law, Section 202, page 987.
Idiot.
It's not subject to an election, not even a mayor, not even a governor. You got to start understanding this. This is kind of like the whole thing with the whole shot, where they say if you don't get the shot, you don't work. Yo, you're not gonna violate my rights. Like, what you talking about? If you fire me because I don't do it, you is violating my rights. You can't do it. I don't care what your policy says.
Hey, yeah, boy.
This concept is further amplified by the definition of personal liberty. Quote, personal liberty largely consists of the right of locomotion, to go where and when one pleases, only so far as restrained as the rights of others may make it necessary for the welfare of all other citizens. The right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and transport his property thereon by horse-drawn carriage, wagon, or automobile is not a mere privilege, which may be permitted. That means permits. That's what a driver's license is. It's a permit. It's a permission. Or prohibited at will. You can't prohibit it when you want to, just because you say so. Because you mostly deal with people who have submitted, like we just read earlier. You can't violate my rights just because everybody else has submitted, bro. You have power over them because they submitted and got a driver's license, but I haven't submitted. So all the things that you can do to them don't apply to me. And if you want to make them as though they do apply to me, then you're going to violate my rights and I'm going to sue you. It's point blank, that serious. It's that easy.
Hey, yeah, boy.
But the common law. Understand what he's saying there. It's not just when he says common right, that means under common law, bro.
Idiot.
Which he has under his right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Under this constitutional guarantee, one may, therefore, under normal conditions, travel at his inclination along the public highways or in public places, and while conducting himself in an orderly and decent manner, neither interfering nor disturbing another's rights, he will be protected not only in his person but in his safe conduct. Unquote. Emphasis added. On 2 Am's Juris, First Constitutional Law, Section 329, page 1135. Did you hear me? There's no, like, what you don't get about that? This right here is above every state statute. Everything. All of it. Those statutes don't apply to you, man.
Yeah, boy.
It's so clear. And while conducting himself in an orderly and decent manner, if you're walking down the street, orderly manner, neither interfering nor disturbing another's rights, harassing me and telling me that I have to come and talk to you, putting me in handcuffs and transporting me back to a location I was not at or didn't want to be at. Yo, you protected, bro. You have rights, man, and they're not given by the Constitution. And further, quote, personal liberty consists of the power of locomotion, of changing situations, of removing one's person to whatever place one inclination may direct without imprisonment or restraint, or detainment, or arrest, unless by due process of law, unquote. 1. Blackstone's Commentary, 134th Hare, Constitution 777, Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1914, Black Laws Dictionary, 5th edition. Justice Tolman was concerned about the state prohibiting the citizen from the most sacred of liberties, the right of movement, the right of moving oneself from one place to another without threat of imprisonment, the right to use the public roads in the ordinary course of life. When the state allows the formation of a corporation, it may control its creation by establishing guidelines, statutes for its operation, the charters.
Yeah, boy.
Go ahead and put you up in your tabs on your Safari or whatever you use, your internet tab. Go to find a Black Laws Dictionary online. And it'd be best, honestly, if you find Black Laws Dictionary, search up Black Laws Dictionary PDF and get one of the earlier versions. Get a couple versions. Look up definitions such as statutes, charters. All these words, they all mean something completely different. And I'll show you in a couple examples here. Corporations who use the roads in the course of business do not use the roads in the ordinary course of life. Do you understand that? Did you hear what I said? That's very important. These are things that you're submitting to the judge and the DA when you go in. If they're going to give you a Class A misdemeanor, there's going to be a DA, okay? They're going to be the prosecuting attorney on this. And there are several other things that I'll go through that you initially want to say to these people when you go into a court to speak with them. That is very, very important because you start to establish the understanding of what you need to say to these people. They don't have any power over you, man. It's so simple. They drop the case immediately. I have proof. I'll show you guys. So when the state allows, okay, we already read this, right? Oh wait, no, it says corporations. Okay, yep. There is a difference between a corporation and a live individual. The United States Supreme Court has stated, quote, we are of the opinion that there is a clear distinction in the particular between an individual and a corporation, and that the latter has no right to refuse to submit its books and papers for examination on the suit of the state. Okay? That means the corporation has no right to refuse submit its books and papers, not the individual. Wake up, America. The individual may stand upon his constitutional rights as a citizen. He is entitled to carry on his private business in his own way. His power to contract is unlimited. You see how emotional I get? He owes no duty to the state or to his neighbors to divulge his business, anything, or to open his doors to investigation, to roll down your windows and speak to them, so far as it may tend to incriminate him. He owes no such duty to the state since he receives nothing therefrom beyond the protection of his life, liberty, and property. His rights are such as the law of the land are antecedent to the organization of the state and can only be taken from him by due process of law and in accordance with the Constitution. Among his rights are the refusal to incriminate himself. That means give up any information, bro. That means your name, anything. That means even your license plate. Because what does your license plate do? It gives up your information. Any corporation, which is a police department, the city is a corporation, so is the county, and so is the state. They're all corporations. That's what you fail to understand. Government is just another name, a facade for corporation. It's just of a different category. You see what I'm saying? But it's all based on contractual agreements. Okay? That's why it says up here, his power to contract is unlimited. Because I could contract with any and all corporations, states, if I wish. But I don't have to if I don't wish to at all. This is what you need to understand. Okay? So it says, and the immunity of himself and his property from arrest and seizure except under warrant of the law. Property from arrest or seizure except under warrant of law. He owes nothing to the public so long as he does not trespass upon the rights. Unquote. If you ain't trespass on anybody's rights, you're good to go, bro. That's it. They can't do nothing. Because all power is inherent in you. And you are the dictator of them. So by them, when you dictate something, like saying, hey man, I'm going to reserve all my rights. I don't want to speak to you anymore. I'm going to reserve my right to remain silent. And they dictate that you speak with them or pull or walk with them and go somewhere that they do not see fit or that you don't see fit, and you say no, and they violate you and tell you have to anyways when you've brung no harm or trespassed upon anybody else's rights, case closed. That's it. Right there. That paragraph alone is a done deal, bro. It's a done deal. That gives it... Come on, man. Understand, but we're going to keep going. We got to make it concrete. You can't just go with one quote. Quote, upon the land, the corporation is a creature of the state. It is presumed to be incorporated for the benefit of the public. It receives certain special privileges and franchises and holds them subject to the laws of the state in the limitations of its charter. Its right to act as a corporation are only preserved so long as it obeys the laws of its creation. There is a reserved right in the legislature to investigate its contracts and find out whether it has exceeded its powers. It would be strange anomaly to hold that the state, having chartered a corporation to make use of certain franchises, could not in exercise of its sovereignty inquire how those franchises had been employed and whether they had been abused, and demand the protection of corporate books and papers for that purpose. Unquote. Hale versus Hinkle, 201 U.S. 43, 74 through 75, 1906. But what's amazing about this one is, again, it says, upon the other hand, the corporation is a creature of the state. That means any cities underneath it, all counties underneath it. And the state is a creation of the what? The United States government. And what is the United States government a creation of? The man. And what is the man a creation of? God. That's the order it goes into, y'all. God, man, government, state, cities, or counties, cities. And then the police departments are even below them, bro. So do you see how high up you actually really are if you have not trespassed upon anybody else's rights? You're above all of it. You are above all of it. Let's keep going. Corporations engaged in mercantile equity fall under the purview of the state's admiralty jurisdiction, and the public at large must be protected from their activities, as they, the corporations, are engaged in business for profit. But don't you understand, man? The police are not supposed to pull you over at all. But what you have done, and what we've all been tricked into, and I was too, till about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, was that you don't have to have a driver's license. It's a right, not a privilege. We've all given up our right for a privilege, because when you sign for a driver's license, that's a contractual agreement that you will then abide by all of the statutes. That's what happens, guys. And it's all in place for what? Corporations engaged in mercantile equity. It clearly says it right here. Fall under the purview of the state's admiralty jurisdiction. Why? because the public at large must be protected from their activities as they are corporations and are engaged in business for profit. So let's go into another quote. Quote, based upon the fundamental ground that the sovereign state has the primary control of the streets and highways and the exercise of its police power. And when you go see police power, it says infra right here. That means police power, and then it has under quotations at the very bottom, within constitutional limitations. Okay, so they even have, it says it right there under police power, within constitutional limitations. And your constitution clearly states you have the right to travel. May absolutely prohibit the use of the streets as a place for the prosecution of a private business for gain. They all recognize the fundamental distinction between the ordinary right of the citizen to use the streets in usual way and the use of the streets as a place of business where a main instrumentality of business for private gain. The former is a common right. The latter is an extraordinary use. As to the former, the legislative power is confined to regulation. As to the latter, it is plenary and extends even to absolute prohibition. Since the use of the streets by a common carrier in the prosecution of the business as such is not a right but a mere license to privilege. Hadville vs. Ludden, 98 Washington, 6571, 168, page 516.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
It will be necessary to review early cases and legal authority in order to reach a lawfully correct theory dealing with this right of or privilege. Defendant will attempt to reach a sound conclusion as to what is a right to use the road and what is a privilege to use the road. Once reaching this determination, we shall then apply those positions to modern case decisions. Quote, where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no room making or legislation which would abrogate them. Unquote, Miranda versus Arizona. And, quote, the claim and exercise of a constitutional right cannot be converted into a crime. Unquote, Miller versus the United States. And, quote, there can be no sanction or penalty imposed upon one because of this exercise of constitutional rights. Unquote, Scheer versus Cullen. Streets and highways are established and maintained for the purpose of travel and transportation by the public. Such travel may be for business or pleasure. Quote, the use of the highways for the purpose of travel and transportation is not a mere privilege, but a common and fundamental right of which the public individual cannot be rightfully deprived. Unquote. Chicago Motor Coach versus Chicago. Lagar versus Chicago. 1929 and 1891. And, quote, the right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and transport his property thereon, either by horse-drawn carriage or by automobile, is not a mere privilege which a city can prohibit or permit at will, but a common right which he has under the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thompson versus Smith. And this was in 1930. This is not even 100 years ago, guys. Y'all already forgetting shit that was not even 100 years ago, yo. Y'all forgot y'all's power. That's what they did. They indoctrinated us in the school system, yo. And we just stopped. We allowed them to just start making profit off of us by making all these regulations. And we abide by them. You think it's just okay?
Hold up.
Hold up.
A citizen has the right to travel upon the public highways by automobile, and the citizen cannot be rightfully deprived of his liberty. So where does this misconception that the use of the public road is always and only a privilege come from? Quote, for while a citizen has the right to travel upon the public highways and transport his property thereon, that right does not extend to the use of the highways, either in whole or in part, as a place for private gain. For the latter person, no person has a vested right to use the highways of the state, but is a privilege or a license which the legislature may grant or withhold at its discretion. State versus Johnson, 1926. Hadfield Supra. Cummins versus Holmes. Packard versus Banton, 1924. Here the court held that a citizen has the right to travel upon the public highways, but he did not have the right to conduct business upon the highways. You see the clear distinction? So it's not just for corporations, it's for private business as well. If you transporting people or goods, even though you're doing it privately, you still using the roads in a commercial capacity for profit. There's a difference between traveling and using the roads for public profit.
Hey, yeah, boy.
On this point of law, all authorities are unanimous. Quote, heretofore the court has held, and we think correctly, that while a citizen has the right to travel upon the public highways, again that word, travel, there's a clear distinction between what we'll go through later of travel and drive upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon. That right does not extend to the use of the highways, either in or in part as a place of business for private gains. Clearly, guys, there's a distinction here. They're using clear terminology. Barney versus Board of Railroad Commissioners, 1932. Willis versus Buck in 1928. And, quote, the right of the citizen to travel upon the highway and transport his property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business differs radically and obviously from that of one who makes the highways his place of business for private gain in the run of a stagecoach or omnibus or any transportation, unquote, or any transportation, okay? State versus City of Spokane, 1920. So, what is the right of the citizen which differs so radically and obviously from one who uses the highway as a place of business? Who better to enlighten us than the Justice Tolman of the Supreme Court of Washington? In State versus City of Spokane, Supra, the court also noted a very radical and obvious difference, but went on to explain just what that difference is. Quote, the former is the usual and ordinary right of the citizen, a common right to all, while the latter is special, unusual, and extraordinary, unquote. This distinction, elementary and fundamental in character, is recognized by all authorities, unquote. State versus City of Spokane. This position does not hang precariously upon a few cases, but has been proclaimed by an impressive array of cases, ranging from state courts to federal courts. Quote, the right of the citizen to travel upon the highway and to transport his property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business differs radically and obviously from that of one who makes the highway his place of business and uses it for private gain in the running of a stagecoach or omnibus. The former is the usual and ordinary right of the citizen, a right common to call, while the latter is special, unusual, and extraordinary. Ex parte Dickey versus Davis, 1950. And, quote, the right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business is a common right which he has under the right to enjoy life and liberty, to acquire and possess property, and to pursue happiness and safety. It includes the right, in so doing, to use the ordinary and usual conveyances of the day and under existing modes of travel. That means even to this day, even in their day, includes the right to drive a horse-drawn carriage or wagon thereon, or to operate an automobile thereon for the usual and ordinary purpose of life and business, unquote. Teche Lines versus Danforth in 1943, and then in Thompson versus Smith, Supra. There's no dissent among various authorities as to this position. See Ames Jurance, First Constitutional Law 329, and corresponding Ames Jurance II, quote, personal liberty, or the right to enjoyment of life and liberty, is one of the fundamental or natural rights which has been protected by its inclusion as a guarantee in the various constitutions, which is not derived from nor dependent on the U.S. Constitution. So your right isn't even dependent upon the Constitution, y'all. Why? Because it's a natural right. It's a fundamental right. It's a common right. Falls under common law. It is one of the most sacred and valuable rights. Remember the words of Justice Tolman Supra, as sacred as the right to private property, and is regarded as inalienable, unquote. 16 CJS Constitutional Law, Section 202, page 987. So, as we can see, the distinction between a right to use the public roads and a privilege to use the public roads is drawn upon the line of using the roads as a place of business, and the various state courts have held so. But what have the U.S. courts held on this point? Quote, first, it is well-established law that the highway of the state are public property, and their primary and preferred use is for private purposes, and that their use for purposes of gain is special and extraordinary, which generally, at least, the legislature may prohibit or condition as it sees fit. Unquote. They can legislate and may prohibit or condition as they see fit. They can make up all the laws that they want in there, or statutes, policies, procedures that they want within their corporation. But if you do not have a contractual agreement with their corporation, or you are driving in or operating in a capacity that is outside commercial use, you do not fall under their jurisdiction. Period. Okay, so this is Steffenson versus Benford in 1932, Packard versus Banton, 1924, and cases cited in Frost Trucking Company versus Railroad Commission in 1926, Railroad Commission versus Jader City Forwarding Company, and Parlett Cooperative versus Tidewater Lines. So what is a privilege to use the roads? By now it should be apparent, even to the learned, that an attempt to use the road as a place of business is a privilege. The distinction must be drawn between traveling upon and transporting one's property upon the public roads, which is our right, using the public roads as a place of business, or a main instrumentality of business, which is a privilege. Quote, the roads are constructed and maintained at public expense, and no person therefore can insist that he has or may acquire a vested right to their use in carrying on a commercial business. Unquote. Ex parte Sterline. Barney versus Railroad Commission, 1932. And Steffenson versus Benford, Supra. Quote, when the public highways are made the place of business, the state has the right to regulate their use in the interest of safety and convenience of the public, as well as the preservation of the highways. Unquote. Barney versus Railroad Commission. Why you think they... Yo, man, come on. Quote, the state's right to regulate such use is based upon the nature of the business and the use of the highway in connection therewith. Unquote. I bid. Quote, we know of no inherent right in one to use the highways for commercial purposes. That is a big quote, guys. Listen to this again. We know of no inherent right in one to use the highways for commercial purposes. The highways are primarily for the use of the public and in the interest of the public. The state may prohibit or regulate the use of the highways for gain. Unquote. Robertson versus Department of Public Works, Supra. There should be considerable authority on that subject, considering the importance of this deprivation on the liberty of the individual, quote, using the roads in the ordinary course of life and business, unquote. However, it should be noted that extensive research has not turned up one case of authority acknowledging the state's power to convert the individual's right to travel upon the public roads into a privilege. There's none. There's no case of authority acknowledging the state's power to convert your individual right to travel upon the public roads. Okay? God, wake up. Therefore, it must be concluded that the citizen does have a right to travel and transport his property upon the public highways and roads, and the exercise of his right, and is not a privilege. 3 definitions. In order to understand the correct application of the statute in questions, we must first define the terms used in connection with the point of law. As will be shown, many terms used today do not, in their legal context, mean what we assume they mean, thus resulting in the misapplication of statutes in the instant case, which I'm talking about my case when I submit these motions to the court. Automobile and motor vehicle. There is a clear distinction between an automobile and a motor vehicle. An automobile has been defined as, quote, the word automobile connotes a pleasure vehicle designed for the transportation of persons on highways, unquote. American Mutual Liberty Insurance Company versus Chaput. While distinction is made clear between the two, as the courts have stated, quote, a motor vehicle or automobile for hire is a motor vehicle other than an automobile state used for the transportation of persons for which remuneration is received, unquote. International Motor Transit Company versus Seattle. Quote, the term motor vehicle is different and broader than the word automobile, unquote. City of Dayton versus the Pros. The distinction is made very clear in the United States Code, Title 18, Section 31. Quote, motor vehicle means every description or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and what? And used for commercial purposes on the highways in the transportation of passengers or passengers and property. Used for commercial purposes means the carriage of persons or property for any fare, fee, rate, charge, or other considerations, or directly or indirectly in connection with any business or other undertaking intended for profit. That's the United States Code, Title 18, Section 31, which overrides all states. Wake up, my people. All power is inherent in my people who know, who have knowledge, wisdom. You have a wise dome.
Yeah, boy.
Travel. The term travel is a significant term and is defined as, quote, the term travel and traveler are usually construed in the broad and general sense so as to include all those who rightfully use the highways viatically when being reimbursed for expenses and who have occasion to pass over them for the purpose of business, convenience, or pleasure. 25 Amjur's First Highway, Section 427, page 717. Quote, traveler, one who passes from place to place, whether for pleasure, instruction, business, or health, unquote. Lockett versus State, 47. I think that's Alabama. 45. Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1914, page 3309. Quote, travel, to journey or to pass through or over as a country, district, road, etc., to go from one place to another, whether on foot or horseback, or in any conveyance as train, an automobile, carriage, ship, aircraft, make a journey, unquote. Century Dictionary, page 2034. Therefore, the term travel and traveler refers to one who uses any conveyance to go from one place to another and includes all those who use the highways as a matter of right. Notice that in all these definitions, the phrase for hire never occurs. This term travel or traveler implies by definition one who uses the road as a means to move from one place or another in any way you see fit. Okay, guys? One who uses the road in the ordinary course of life and business for the purposes of travel and transportation is a traveler. Driver. The term driver, in contradistinction to traveler, is defined as, there's a clear distinction between the two, y'all. Quote, driver, one employed. Okay, come on, guys, it's right there. It's in Black Law's Dictionary, guys. Come on. Driver, one employed in conducting a coach, wagon, or any other type of vehicle. Okay, guys? Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1914, page 940. Very easy to understand. Okay. Notice that this definition includes one who is employed, as I say always in my motion, in the conduction of a vehicle. it should be self-evident that this person could not be traveling, okay, on a journey, but is using the road as a place in the conduct of business. Do you see how I break it down for these administrative judges? Because they're nothing more than administrative judges, y'all. That's all they are. They're administrative judges, bro. They don't even have a license, bro. So you could go in and challenge jurisdiction just alone on the fact that they don't even have licenses within their courtroom. It's ridiculous. They're nothing more than judges for a corporation. Think of like the board of a corporation. Those are like your judges, right? That's literally what the judges are within your city. That's all they are. You have to realize that, y'all. Okay? They're there for people in commercial capacities. The only reason that they are eligible to have jurisdiction over you is because you signed to have a driver's license. You gave up your right for a privilege, y'all. Today we assume that a traveler is a driver and a driver is an operator. However, this is not the case. And this is about the definition of operator now, because Washington uses operator. Quote, "It will be observed from the language of the ordinance that a distinction is to be drawn between the terms operator and driver. The operator of the service car being the person who is licensed to drive the car on the streets in the business of carrying passengers for hire.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
While the driver is the one who actually drives the car. However, in the actual prosecution of business, it was possible for the same person to be both operator and driver." Unquote. New Bill versus Union Indemnity Code. To further clarify the definition of an operator, the court observed that this was a vehicle for hire and that it was in the business of carrying passengers. This definition would seem to describe a person who is using the road as a place of business, or in other words, a person engaged in the privilege of using the road for gain. This definition, then, is a further clarification of the distinction mentioned earlier, and therefore, 1. Traveling upon and transporting one's property upon the public roads as a matter of right meets the definition of a traveler. 2. Using the road as a place of business as a matter of privilege meets the definition of a driver or an operator or both. Traffic. Having defined the terms automobile, motor vehicle, traveler, driver, and operator, the next term to define is traffic. Oh my gosh, this is actually the 28-page document, guys. So I'm throwing you through the actual memorandum of the actual first motion that I filed. But this is cool. I can make this, I can stop off at this point. So we'll stop off at traffic on the first part. Okay, I don't want to take up too much because then y'all won't even watch it all the way through. So we'll stop here on traffic. Okay, we're going to be on page 10 of the memorandum, petition of the memorandum of law in the abatement motions that you file when you go into court. Or actually, before you even go into court. When you get the tickets, you go ahead and print these out with the case number, state and cities that you're going to be going against, and you go and file them immediately. Okay? And the judge has to rebut what you're saying. If the judge can't rebut this, and we'll get to the point where we go through all this rebuttal stuff, and even if you have to go in as far as, see, because check it. When they call you to arraignment, they're going to ask you to plea, okay? Being a sovereign person, being a person with all inherent right and power that is above the government, you can't plea, okay? You don't plea. That's what you tell them, because the moment you plea, you give them jurisdiction over you, okay? Honestly, even filing motions is giving them jurisdiction over you. But when you file these motions, they don't fight against you because you have so much case law on your favor that they just drop it. Okay. Now, when you do an arraignment, if you do end up going to arraignment, because you're going to file this, so if they don't want to pursue before the arraignment and they don't send something in the mail that says they dismiss it, Then you have to go to arraignment, and they'll ask you, how do you plead? And you say, well, and we'll get into this, but you tell, I can't plead. I know all power is inherent in me, and therefore there's no verified complainant that can bring a charge against me, because any police officer works for the corporation, and he cannot be a verified complainant. So if the court can bring a verified complainant before the court, then we can discuss about these charges that were brought before me. It gets deep, y'all, and we'll go through this document that I have laid out for myself as far as bullet points are concerned, to make the points in law, standing on common law, because the jurisdiction that you were invoking when you go into these courts is common law. You let them know, hey, I am a free man, and within this court I'm going to be operating under common law. So we're going to be pulling jurisdiction into that realm. Okay, there's a lot that goes into it. I'm going to help you guys learn. I've been doing this for a while. I have several cases that I can show proof on, with the DA sending me that they've dropped it with prejudice. Listen, guys, it's not hard. These people know your rights. When I go to court, man, I dress in my three-piece suit. I have my briefcase. I've had several lawyers, including public defenders, come up to me and ask me what law firm I'm from. That's how we go in and smash these courts, man. And it's because we know our rights. We know who we are. We know that we are a creation of the Most High. And that's all that you have to know. Once that has been brought forth into the court, they honor you, especially if you act and you stand on your rights. You act in a professional manner. You stand with authority, knowing who you are. When you stand with authority and know who you are and state it, they have no other choice but to respect you. You smile at them. You treat them with respect and dignity. Yes, you wish inside that they had more dignity not to, that you wish they had more dignity to at least educate these people. But again, this is a free will world. You're able to choose. Okay, you have the choice. Everything is put before you to learn. Okay, it's just you've chosen. We've chosen to indoctrinate our children into a school system that teaches false history. We've chosen to submit ourselves to corporations who act in the color of law and treat it as though it is above our common and natural rights. Those are our choices. Sometimes it's not our choice because, it's our mother's choice to teach the children. These are all steps that we got to take to empower ourselves in the future for our children. Like we pulled our kids out of school. We homeschool. I've developed a business on my own, a side business, which all of you are inclined, if you homeschool your kids or you want to put your kids out of school, we've developed a education system that is integrated with AI that I'll teach anybody about or give a consultation about that will your child will be far, far ahead of anybody in a school system, a public school system that is. My daughter's 5 years old and she reads at a second grade level, guys. Okay, so, but we're gonna leave it here for now. I love you all. We'll talk more. Man, just remember, all power is inherent in the people. You are the people. So today is Wednesday, August 31st, in the year of the Lord 2022. As you can see, we're going to serve our notice of liability in common law. It has been notarized, so everything is signed and true. We're going to serve that up right now. Let's go do it. Let's get it. Hey, I need to serve a notice to the sheriff or a representative of the sheriff.
Serve a what?
A notice.
A notice for?
Notice of liability.
What?
I need to service a notice of liability to the sheriff or a representative of the sheriff.
Hector. Not too bad. This gentleman here, I'm not quite sure what paper he's supposedly serving. You might want to go and talk to him.
This gentleman here, I'm not quite sure what paper he's supposedly serving, you might want to go and talk to him.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing good, thank you.
Good. I need to serve this notice of liability to the sheriff or an authorized representative of agent or agent.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm gonna check this one at the back.
Okay.
Are you trying to serve this one for someone or?
No, it's for the sheriff's office. For the sheriff and the sheriff's office, all his agents, authorized representatives, every deputy.
Okay, let me
Putting y'all
ask
on
someone
notice.
at the back.
Cool, thanks.
Alright, you can get down.
Wait. Okay, say that again.
I can accept your declaration
Okay.
with NCSO.
Okay, is there any way that you can file that and then give me a copy and then I'll make a FOIA request?
I will file this. I'll make a copy for you. You can have a copy back.
Thank you. And whom are you, by the way?
What's that?
May I ask who you are?
Yeah, I can give you a copy of my business card.
Okay. From this point forward, all I should have to do is present my my paperwork to any sheriffs if they were to stop me or anything like that, correct?
I can't tell you. I can't advise you on the law. I can't give you any legal advice. I can't tell you the force or effect of this, but I can tell you that I've accepted it on behalf of the sheriff's office.
Awesome.
That's my business
Awesome.
card.
Thank you. All right, have a good one. So, document has been accepted by the manager of Professional Standards Unit, Jeff Heinrich. Again, this is on August the 31st. August 31st, Wednesday, 2022 at 11:59 a.m.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Hey, yeah, boy.